Hey guys, so I just got back from BlizzCon, so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that were announced and what are some of the videos we might be seeing from my channel over the next week or two, some of the things that we might be talking about. But I just really wanted to give a summary for those who might not have watched BlizzCon or might not have seen everything. I'm going to give a quick summary of what came out and probably a small opinion from myself of what I think about it. So let's get right into it. The first thing that I saw, which I really thought was fun, was the StarCraft Co-op Commander. If you have been playing StarCraft Co-op Commanders, they're bringing out Zeratul, which I've been kind of dubbing the name Indiana Jones. And after playing everything that was on the floor, this was one of the more, I guess, underrated ones in my opinion, as there wasn't a very long line to play Zeratul, and he was extremely fun. I call him Indiana Jones because his whole gimmick is that he's searching for artifacts, and the artifacts upgrade your units as well as give you new abilities. And you get to choose which ability you get. Say you find an artifact, you have different abilities that you can choose. So, for instance, this one. You get a choice of one of these three units that you can summon every minute. And by just getting your first artifact, your next artifact, you get one of these abilities that you can use: a stasis beam to lock down people, a tesseract monolith to slow people, or this one slows them, and then this one is a defensive structure. But yeah, like they're really really cool. I won't spoil too much, but generally he's a really really fun hero and one of, in my opinion, the most underrated announcement at BlizzCon, purely because it didn't get a lot of attention, but he was probably, I had a lot of fun playing him. On to the next thing. What do we have? We have the Diablo 3 on the Nintendo Switch. And the cool part about this is you get a brand new community. Everyone starts from scratch. So everyone's getting in there. No one's power leveling each other. It's just really fun. You get to go through the campaigns. They're all loaded with popularity. There's a lot of people playing it. The price tag's a little high, but it does come with all the DLC and a lot of extra little things. So generally, it is going to be pretty fun. Also, the Nintendo Switch tax, you know. So I had a lot of fun with this one. Then on to Diablo Immortal, we're going to be skipping this one. No, I'm just kidding. We'll go on to it. There's a lot of drama on this. I guess my only real thought about this that I was a little confused is that Diablo worked with another team, and they said that they had their team working on Diablo 4, and that Diablo 4 wasn't going to be announced at this BlizzCon, and they don't know how long it's going to be until they get Diablo 4. So this BlizzCon, we could have pretty much just gotten nothing or gotten Diablo Immortal. And I feel like whenever I say that to people, they're like, oh, well, I would rather just get nothing. But in general, it brings in a different audience that might not have already played it. It's a pretty high quality game on the mobile device. Now we don't know what the business model is yet. We don't know if it's microtransactions. We don't know what it is. But I played the game. It runs pretty smooth on all the demo phones were S9s, so it was a pretty new phone, but everything ran pretty well, and the controls felt pretty smooth. But I understand the contention for this one, so I really won't focus too much on it. I will just say that essentially the team that they actually have, their Diablo team, is working on, now they didn't confirm it's Diablo 4, but they did say that they are working on a fully fledged Diablo game, but it's not going to be ready for a little while. And they used a different team, an external team, to make this game. So I don't think it's bad that we're getting this game, but I sure am crossing my fingers that it's going to be okay, because it was pretty fun to play. I'm not a big mobile gamer personally on mobile phones, but I do like mobile on like an actual gaming device. I just don't like burning my battery on my phone. But either way, I'm going to move into Orphea. She was announced for Heroes of the Storm. I'm going to do a whole video on Orphea, most likely tomorrow, and then we'll get into her from there. She is a low range, high mobile mage that has a decent amount of self sustain, and she's got a pretty unique kit. She's the first official Nexus hero. She's not from any of the other universes. And when I talked to a few Blizzard employees, and essentially on the panel as well, they said something along the lines of, we wanted to try a Nexus hero so that we wouldn't be tied into specific things. Because if they were to create a kit that was really, really unique, they were worried that they would have to try to shove it onto a character, and then people would just complain, like Tassadar, for example, where it doesn't really fit his style. And so they were like, we don't want people to complain because of that. And we want to be to where we're not locked down into a specific design. So they wanted to try Orphea. And Orphea is pretty fun. Is her kit something that couldn't have just fit on, like, I don't know, a panda with the, like, Shah abilities? Like a corrupted panda that was corrupted by the Shah? I don't know. Probably something like that. But at the same time, I personally am up to seeing a little bit more story in Heroes of the Storm. I think it's cool. I know it's something that's kind of back and forth, but either way, let's talk about her kit. As a lot of times, the people that watch my videos are more into the strategy side rather than the lore side. So she has a Q ability, makes it to where she hits someone, she can move right afterwards. If she doesn't hit someone, she can't move. Also, if she hits someone, the cooldown's lowered to 2 seconds. She has Chomp, which is actually a very high damage ability. A little bit of a delay. Chomps down, deals a lot of damage. And then she has Dread. It's a very slow ability that deals damage on its path, and then it sits for a bit, and then it blows up. What I found was Dread and Chomp were great at clearing waves, as well as for team fights that are very chaotic, while Shadow Waltz is going to be your bread and butter during team fights. I like to think of Shadow Waltz a little bit like Medivh's Q, as if you keep landing it, you can keep your DPS up really, really high. I used a particular talent build that I really liked that was kind of based off of Chomp, but it's pretty open to either way. She has 2 ultimate abilities, one that just keeps dealing damage in a specific area. And it's after 1.5 seconds, it deals 210 damage in an area. It repeats every 1 second as long as it hits an enemy hero. So if you can mosh someone and then you can pop that, then it's going to proc something like 3 or 4 times. Or if you're trying to like fight over a camp and everyone's trying to like sit on that boss or that camp point, you can toss that down. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I was talking a lot at BlizzCon, so I'm having a really hard time getting my voice back. But yeah, so it's cool, but I don't think that's going to be the main one people are going to be using. Crushing Jaws was just so good. And if you haven't seen some of the in-game animations for all of these, the animations are just phenomenal. So that's Orphea. I'll have an entire video that I'm going to do for her probably tomorrow. Here's the Storm's getting some major changes in terms of how experience works. Their whole goal is to remove the snowball effect, and I'll probably do an entire video on all of these changes later. Put simply, they're changing how experience is given while giving more experience by camps, as well as making it to where camps give experience when defeating them. And then there's no more experience from forts or keeps and half the experience from towers. So towers are going to give what, like 125 experience for towers, and then the passive experience is increased. From what happened when I was playing it, I noticed that camps were more effective, but it was more important to get them at times that the enemies wouldn't be there to clear them. And then everything else was pretty similar, though, in general. Like, there wasn't as much snowball. There was a lot more objectives where we were fighting on even talent tiers, which was good and bad. It forces more team fights, but it lowers... Sorry. It was weird because it's like it kind of made it to where there was more macro because you wanted... Macro is the way that you get more experience on the enemies. But... macro is also a little bit less effective because early macro, I guess is the better way to say it. Early macro is less effective. Late game macro is more effective. That's the best way that I could explain it. But I'll do probably a full video on this as well as this. Armor revamp, just generally good. They give better visual indicators, as well as they made it to where armor can no longer stack. So we might start seeing some buffs to some individual armor gain now that you can't stack armor. It'll just give the highest amount of armor there. There's also no stacking armor removal. So if you had ways to remove armor, you can't stack that either, which I don't think you could do that before, but I don't remember. Matchmaking, quick match got a lot better because now every game outside of a group of 5, you're going to have a tank, a healer, and a ranged assassin. This is going to make it to where people learn a lot fewer bad habits from just playing quick match. I like that. And then they're going to be doing some experience things, and I will probably do a video on this later. On to the new roles. Not much to say here. They expanded the roles. Instead of having the 4, there is 6. Put simply, what they did was they broke up warrior into 2, and they broke up the healers into 2, and finally they broke up assassins into 2. So if that kind of explains it a little bit better, then they kind of took specialist role and just shoved it into all of these different areas. It doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be played like specialists, but we do have people like Murky who are sitting as a melee assassin. So this is pretty much what we want to look at for this. There are some that I might disagree with a little bit. Thrall is a bruiser. He is a little bit tanky, but he shouldn't really be that far in, as well as people like Lost Vikings as support. I think that support should be named utility. But either way, generally, I think it's a pretty good change. On to Ashe, or the real hero here, which is Bob. Ashe is a Overwatch hero, and she was the announcement for Overwatch. She's really actually extremely fun to play, despite the fact that her kit seems pretty generic. Like, her kit's pretty much just you can fire a gun, you've got a mobile aspect to it, and you've got a bomb, and your ult's pretty cool. But in general, like, her movement was really fluid. Her shotgun that she had was really easy to get up on objects, and it was just a really, really fun character to play. She has a unique aspect with her bomb that makes it where she could throw her bomb and shoot it to blow it up earlier or later. She can either throw it and then have everyone run away from it, or she can throw it and shoot it midair, and then it rains fire and sparks on people. Her ultimate ability is the first time where you summon a unit for an ultimate ability that will move around and shoot things. It initially charges in, hits someone, and then stuns them, followed by using a variety of abilities later. Think of Kerrigan's new Ultralisk, and that's pretty much what Bob is. But she's actually like surprisingly fun. I played her a little bit, and I was like, this is actually pretty fun. I think that she's going to bring a lot new to the meta of Overwatch, and I think that it's going to be something that they need. But yeah, and another hit scan, and she has a pretty cool mechanic in terms of how you attack. You can attack faster if you are not scoped, but then when you're scoped, your damage has less fall off. So it's not so much that you attack slower, but your damage can deal more damage further away. I don't know. It's pretty cool. Hearthstone got a expansion. I haven't been playing much Hearthstone lately, so I'm probably not going to explain too much about this, but each class has a new god, and the god brings a specific playstyle, and then there is a legendary unit in each one, or a big unit in each one, that makes it to where you can go in kind of an opposite playstyle. So each class is getting 2 new playstyles, and they're also adding a new single player adventure as well. So it is a pretty cool one. I was playing some of the Paladin, and it's a pretty fun playstyle. So if you do want to play that, that is there. We have WoW Classic that was announced to come out in the summer of this year, and I'm really excited to get the 40-man get 40 people together again. And it's I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with vanilla. I played vanilla a lot when I was younger, and I was a raid leader for Molten Core, and wrangling together 40 people and making sure that they all have their fire resistance gear, and they have their potions, and they have all their well feds, and they have all their buffs, and making sure that if we lose like a priest, that we need to get another priest to make sure we have all those buffs. It ended up becoming kind of a mess. So I have a definitely love-hate relationship. Same with leveling weapon skills, the grindy nature of it. But I'm not forced to play it, so cool. But in general, I don't know. I'm excited to give it another shot and go back and relive the nostalgia and maybe see something cool. But generally, it's I don't know. People are really excited for it, so that is pretty cool. We're gonna have that this summer. Now, for me, in my opinion, the most important reveal is this next one, and this was Warcraft 3 Reforged. So what Warcraft 3 Reforged is it's a better graphics version of Warcraft 3. And they are also changing around the campaign a little bit to make the maps a little bit more interesting now that they have more powerful tools at their disposal. So we can start seeing a little bit more units than we saw before. We can see some crazier things going on before. Maybe more abilities on some of the units. But generally, it's just a HD remake of Warcraft 3. Why do I say this is the biggest announcement? I think part of the reason why is because what Warcraft 3 actually means to a lot of people is much more than just an RTS game. And Warcraft 3 initially was it was just a game with some really great campaigns. It had like 4 different campaigns, and then 5 if you got Frozen Throne. Each one was really cool. They all had unique play styles. And then you got into the competitive side, and there was 4 different races, and they had all unique play styles. It was a lot of fun. But then they had the map editor, and the map editor was kind of a passion for a lot of people, and it created a lot of games, genres, and developers that a lot of people don't even think about. And that's why I think it's the most important. I got confirmation from Blizzard that they are bringing back the map editor. So what is the map editor, and why do I think it's one of the most important things to be added back into our modern society? I say modern like it wasn't modern when this game came out, but let me just say present day. So the map editor is a tool that allows you to make your own games using the assets from Warcraft. And so you can make your own video games, and you don't need to have an artist, you don't need to have an animator, and you don't need to have a sound person, because you can use the sounds, the models, and the animations that are already in the game. This is cool because people out there who want to be game developers can learn from this map editor, and then they can practice with it and then decide later. But not just for people who are trying to learn. Anyone who wants to come up with a game can test their idea here with all of these units, and then if it works, they can take this whole thing, and this is why this is so important these days. You can take this whole idea and go to Kickstarter and say, we want to make this a fully fledged game. Currently, we made the design on Warcraft 3. Now let us make this in this. And you can start using that money to pay for your animators, for your artists, for your sound guys. Really, really cool. So what games have come from it before? Why am I saying that we're going to get all these games from it now when we didn't get any games from it before? You might be asking, or you might be telling me, I know what games we got from this before. Well, to explain a little bit, a lot of developers got into this because of Warcraft 3. So Riot, that made League of Legends, came from Warcraft 3. They worked on Dota. Dota 2, that came from Dota 1, which was also a Warcraft 3 map. Bloons TD, the developer that made Bloons TD, initially made one of the tower defenses in Warcraft 3, as well as a huge variety of other games that we've played. I know the Dungeon Defenders developers have mentioned once or twice that they made a lot of maps on Warcraft 3. It's just a really great starting point for a lot of people who are interested in making video games, or people who might be interested in getting that into the industry. And it's also just pretty cool because the map editor is very similar to the editors and game developing tools that they use at Blizzard. So if you make some really cool games, there's a chance you might be able to use that on a resume. Yeah, it's really cool. I would make new abilities, new items, and new heroes. And that was one of my favorite things to do, is take game modes that other people made, and then I would make my own characters for them and do a patched version of their game and start hosting that one. And it was just fascinating to me, and it was really, really fun to be able to make those new heroes all the time. I made some really funny ones that my friends really liked to play, and I made one that had a really powerful ability that you can only use like twice a game. That made it to where you could fire this flame spell that grew for a little bit, and if it hit a tree, then it would start growing again, and it would recast the spell from that tree. And if it went over a unit, the unit would burn, and then burn to the point that they would turn into a flame unit of that would join your team. So like if an army came to you, you could cast this ability, and especially if it was in the middle of a forest, if they like tried to fight you in the middle of a forest, you'd burn the whole thing, take over their entire army, and attack them with a flaming army. So anyways, I could talk about all the things I did on Warcraft 3. Again, it was pretty much my childhood, just doing these random Warcraft custom games all the time. But what could we see in the future for that? I think this is the cool part, is we saw so many game modes before and genres that were created purely because of Warcraft 3. But look at some of the genres that were created since then that we might be able to see put into Warcraft 3 in a different format, and maybe come up with some other new ideas that could really work with that, like battle royales. We could see a lot of people making their own battle royales, and then find maybe the perfect format for a battle royale and have new people create this. Instead of us just liking the first two battle royales that we see, now we can have people test out 100 different varieties of battle royales really quickly, because they don't need to make the art, they don't need to make the assets. They literally just build the game really quick, see how it runs, and go with it. And that's what I just love about Warcraft 3, because these games just come out so fast, and there's so many fun games that we can play. Anyways, guys, just wanted to share some of the new things that are coming out, or that were announced at BlizzCon, and talk a little bit about those. I will be doing videos for a lot of these things, especially the new Heroes of the Storm stuff. So feel free to subscribe. Make sure that you can check out all of those. I also did an interview with the Heroes of the Storm balance team. So I'll be honest, like the video is a little weird because I was trying to do it, set it all up, and then we ended up moving the couches later, and I didn't realize it, so it's a little weird. But we still get the questions answered, a lot of questions that I asked in my Discord, and got some questions that we'd want to. I actually wanted to ask like 15, but I ran out of time. But we still get some really good answers from the balance team, so we get to kind of figure out where we're going from there. But yeah, I'll be doing a lot of the BlizzCon stuff, and I'll be talking about a lot of the changes for Heroes of the Storm, and I am very excited for Warcraft Reforged, as well as the new heroes that are coming out in Overwatch, as well as Heroes of the Storm. So thank you all for watching, and as always, feel free to check out any of my other videos.